walk down and flush them out.
Welcome to the Hearts of Men podcast, a journey into the depths of men's hearts where courage meets vulnerability and wisdom embraces integrity. In a world that often measures a man by his outer achievements, this podcast dares to explore what truly defines a man of character. We unpack the challenges and triumphs that shape men's lives, bringing to light stories of resilience, compassion, and unshakable faith. We believe that the heart of a man is a treasure trove of untold stories, powerful lessons, and profound wisdom. Through authentic dialogues and insightful discussions, we aim to unlock these treasures, one story at a time. So, whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. Get ready to be challenged, inspired, and transformed. And now, to guide you through this journey of discovery, please welcome your host, a visionary leader and a true catalyst for change, Dwayne Dwyer, but we affectionately know him as the Mindset Coach.
Welcome in, welcome family. They said Dwayne Dwyer. He is here, but he's a part of the set today. Tonight it's on yours truly, myself, Poor Man's Dr. Phil, or Mr. Shift Happens. And along with me, I have my brother from another mother, Coach, the Mindset Coach, Dwayne Dwyer. And right underneath me, you have the son of Timothy, also known as the Available Man. And last but not least, and he's repping the Brown Stetson over there, you have the Uncle Junior from the Uncle Junior's Network, better known as the Consistency Coach. Fellas, how you doing?
I'm good. Long week.
He lying, y'all. He mad because them Giants lost to the Cowboys last night. Don't let them fool you. Do not let them fool you, chat.
And the pettiness.
You know what?
I'm gonna be rolling tonight. I'm gonna be petty tonight.
Hey, that's all right, because the last time the Cowboys beat the Giants twice in the regular season and boasted about it, lost to us in the playoffs and won us the Super Bowl. So, you know, I'm happy.
How you doing, Dwayne? Coach.
Good, man. All right, but I'm good, bro. Been a long day.
Georgia play tomorrow.
Hey, and we're glad to see that you came out tonight because we need you, because we feed off your energy, and it's turning fall. So now you can put up those tight little shirts that y'all wear, those little shorts, and put on some clothes and a button up and actually go outside and breathe in some air that feels good and refreshing. I went outside this morning and drank my tea, and I had a hoodie on. It just felt good having the breeze blow through the little valley right down to my little area. It just felt nice. The weather's changed.
You said I got to put up my hoochie daddy shorts?
You gotta, no more thighs.
No more thighs? Oh, man. Jeans and flannel.
You're doing a good job playing me. You said you're going to be better.
We rolling tonight.
Yeah. And along with us four up here, we like to appreciate all you guys in the chat, making sure that we recognize you. We have Crystal Everett. Crystal Everett is going to be in the chat, making sure that she keeps everyone updated of what's coming up, what's going on right now. And she also be where she's in the chat speaking on the things that's going on within what we're talking about. We got Nick D. She says, hello, happy Friday. Miss Verlene McCoy, good evening. we have myself, and we have Miss Charlotte and Jordan. And we want to see that smile right there. We know every time we say her name, that smile is going to come. And anybody else, let's see, we got Brittany, I want to say Janae, but I don't want to mess up the name, but you know who I'm talking about. We got Adrian Walthour, always my friend. Appreciate you being here. And Cassandra McKenzie. We appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. Make sure that you hit that like button, share, and make sure you share it out across all your platforms so that it can we can feed that algorithm so we can receive some traction. But on tonight, we have a grand topic, and I'm gonna slow myself down because this is a topic to me, it's an important topic. It's one where I'm usually silly, but this is one, to me, it's so important that I just be silly a little bit, just a little bit. But I'm gonna make sure that we dive into this where we can get this information out, where we can receive something from you guys, and we can just talk about this. Let's go. Imagine waking up every single day with a passion and not being consumed with the approval of other people. Waking up knowing deep down inside that you're doing what you were created to do. Not only is that possible, but over here on these sites, we believe that that's what God has for and desires for you to do. Tonight, we will be diving into the importance of choosing purpose over popularity. Yeah, that's purpose over popularity. And that topic was one that kind of stuck me a little bit, because when we're talking purpose over popularity, you know, I was like, okay, what's wrong with popularity? You know, and a lot of us, we will see it like that. Okay, ain't nothing wrong with being popular. But as we dive into it and we see the contrast between being purposeful and being popular, is they really are polar opposites when you dive into it. So at this point, I just want to throw that first question out there to the fellas. What is purpose?
Well, I'm gonna jump on it first because when I looked at the questions, honestly, it was the first time I really thought about it. Like it's like something that you grow up, you start becoming an adult, start just putting pieces together, and you're like, oh, I need to go out and start finding my purpose. But I never really looked at, exactly what purpose was, so I wrote a couple of little notes down. So I'm gonna start with that. So purpose is about that inner drive that aligns with my beliefs and passions. It's also about the reason why I do things. It's also something that you have to search for. It is related to a gift. It can be related to a gift you have, but not necessarily. So for me, my gift is actually linked with my purpose. And one of my gifts, I was talking about it before the show a little bit, is, being able to remain or be able to be consistent. I took me 21 years to finally finish my master's. That's how long I was in school, but it took 21 years of consistency in order to get there. Anything that we've done in life, whether we've raised kids or whatever like that, you have to have a certain level of consistency in order to be there. So that's kind of where I want to start at, as far as what it means to me, as far as what it means and how I want to describe purpose.
I would say purpose is the thing that chases you, and sometimes is in front of you that you trip over because your focus is somewhere else. And I know that was a little complicated the way I put it, but I think it's easy. Like, I'll put that it can be tied to a gift or a talent, but oftentimes it's the thing that is chasing you versus you chasing it. And sometimes the Father will put you in the path of purpose, and you will avoid it. You trip over it because you're trying to aim for something else, and you're wondering what this thing is. Um, so and I believe it's tied to the things that you have gone through the character that you have built throughout time and experience, and the things that and the thing that draws you, because the Father, I believe, is making us every day to be able to walk into our purpose, or to grow in it, whether we accept it or not.
I would say that purpose is the reason why thing was created. It's again my analogy of the butter knife. Again, I can use a butter knife for several different things, but if I use it for several different things outside of the reason why it was created, then I'm abusing it. So when I look at whatever the thing is, what is the reason why the thing was created? When you can answer that question, that in turn defines purpose. For people, it's simple. It's written. You don't have to figure it out. We ain't got to guess. We ain't got to assume. It's in black and white. It's that simple.
I love it because my definition or description of purpose follows along the same lines of coaches. It's because in order to define, I can ask each and every one of these gentlemen what their purpose is, and they can tell me 3 different things. But in order for me to identify what the purpose is for them or myself, you got to go. It's just like Coach talked about the butter knife. I'll talk about the if I were to say putting up a bench, the purpose I understand the purpose, but in order for me to understand the purpose, I got to look at the instructions, and that's what Coach was alluding to. The instructions have been laid, so now that's where we find our purpose. But all too often, we're looking outside of that thing to define our purpose. We're looking at other people to say, okay, what's my purpose? We're looking at our jobs or simply what we like to do, or what we may be good at, because I'm talked about gifts. Simply because you're good at something doesn't mean that that's your purpose. That may be just what you like to do, but it can work towards your purpose. And that's where we'll see as we talk and continue, we'll follow along and find out exactly how you marry those things. On to the next question.
Hold on real quick. Hey, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, sir.
Because I wanted to go back to something that Coach said. And, I got the part when he said, the purpose relates back to the reason why the thing was created. Where I kind of got not lost, but where I want more understanding or clarification is the part about it being black and white, right? So we hear everybody, if you talk to, like Roland said, if you ask us what our purpose is, we all can probably rattle off a couple of different things. Coach, you mentioned that it was in black and white and it was written down. So by that, it seems like everybody would have the same purpose. Or is that the purpose, and then we have other things? I don't know. I don't know where I want to go, but I'm looking for more.
But I think you do know, because you were hitting on it. We all have the same purpose. That's the thing. We were all created for a particular reason. In doing so, there are certain things that are innate for each individual person that gets after what they were called to do. So a lot of times what we tend to do is we interchange the word purpose with calling. Every man was created, every person, I say it that way, was created for the same purpose. I put it in the chat. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Now, under the whole duty of man, you may be called to do it one way, Roland may be called to do it one way, and Gaddy may be called to do it a different way. But at the end of the day, that gets after those different things that I don't even want to use the word like to do or enjoy doing, because I don't even think that's it either. But I think we'll get into that as we continue on this conversation. But you were right. As you were thinking about it and going through it, you were spot on.
So our purpose is the same, but how it's manifested or how it's displayed is what's the difference between us.
Correct.
Say less.
Yeah, you look like you had some. Oh, okay. You reach. I thought you were reaching for the mute button.
Nah, I'm good, Coach. Because I wanted to say something, but like Coach said, started bringing it out, and then Coach brought it out all the way. So I was like, well, I'm gonna lean back.
See, and I like that because as I was looking at this thing, I was looking at various people, and then I came to the realization that when you look at purpose, your purpose, as Coach was saying, is simply put, this is your purpose. Now, Gerald Ford, was it Henry Ford? Henry Ford. Henry Ford supposedly made the Model T Ford as an automobile. And people would say that his purpose was to make an automobile, but his purpose then was simply for transportation for the masses to be other than horse and buggy. That was his vision in it. See, when you have a purpose, we think our purpose is for us. We think the fulfillment should come to us, but the purpose's fulfillment should come to our community, our group. So when I'm doing something, it enhances the group and not just me. And that's, as we go along, we'll see where the contrast between popularity and purpose is.
Yeah, because that's what I want to get to.
How does one identify their purpose?
I wrote this down too. All right. I was ready for the night. I think I'm gonna give you some tools. I think first it starts with reflecting on yourself and asking questions. What I mean by asking questions is things like, what do I like? What am I passionate about? Who do I like to be around? And at the same time, working on yourself. And what do I mean by working on yourself? Maybe reading, podcasts, being around certain people with more information. And I think as you start to learn more about yourself and what things are not as important in your life and what things are important, I think they can start to help you develop what your purpose is. So I think, like Coach said, I get that part about it being in black and white, but how it's going to be manifested or displayed, I think it's going to take some time for you to dig into yourself, and then you have to go on a journey and be purposeful about trying to figure out what your purpose is, if that makes sense. And then it has to line up.
Okay.
That's the big thing right there. It has to line up with whatever your principles are. If your principles are what Coach was talking about in the black and white, then your purpose should line up with whatever is in your principles.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna start right where he finished. It starts with and that's why I didn't go there in the beginning. But it starts with your whole duty. It starts with the primary purpose of man, to fear Yah and keep his commandments. In there, when we search that out, when we search him out, and not searching out our own glory or our own gratification, we begin to walk in our primary purpose, which is to be more like him, to be more like his son. And what will shine out of us will become what our purpose is. And Christ said, well, Paul said the thing. He says that we are all one body, but many members. See, the body is going to do, when Onk is out there running, the whole body is running, but the hands are not paving the pavement. The hands are pumping. The arms are pumping. All right. The lungs are breathing. The feet is what's paving the ground. His back and his core is creating stability so he can keep going. And his brain is telling his body that it can continue to fight on. one foot in front of the other. All of it, and so the purpose of each thing is in a line with the things that the body is doing, that's running. But in the sense of being a part of one centralized body, it should be worldwide, right? Not centralized to this place, that place, one body. And we all do one thing: fear the Most High, keep His commandments. And if that is true in that thing, and doing that thing as a body, you will find your sole purpose. Your purpose is not about your individual achievement. It's not about you individually being glorified and put on a pedestal, right? Not that you can't have achievements, right? But it's about what benefits the whole, what benefits the mission of the body, and that's to finish the race.
So what I hear you say, Gad, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it's something that I'm doing that glorifies me, then that can't be what I'm called to do.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't agree with that, but go ahead.
Okay, tell us why.
I think that you can enjoy it. I think it can be both.
I didn't say enjoy. I said glorify.
Glorify. I think it can be both.
Okay.
I don't think you have to not have one to have the other. I think you can do both in the same. My 2 cents.
No, I got you. I think I'm gonna answer this in two parts. So I kind of want to pick up where Gaddy was at just now. Again, I put it in the chat earlier. Fear God and keep His commandments. So there has to be an understanding of what fear God is first. That should be taught to me at an early age. That His commandments should be taught to me at an early age. Those things should be like ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. They should be like my ability to do math, my ability to write, to read a book and dissect the English language. Those things should be taught to me early. In the teaching of those things, we understand that ultimately we were created for His purpose. So we create ultimately a conglomerate, a big old puzzle, if you will, to achieve what the Most High really wants to accomplish. That's what we have to understand. So when I'm not going along with what Gaddy said, when we learn by looking at what the work that Christ did and understanding what He did, when we learn to reduce our ego and die to ourselves per se, then we recognize ultimately what was said previously, that what we're doing is for my fellow man. It's what I'm doing for other people. So getting back to the fear God and keep His commandments piece, that's the discipline part. That's the obedience part. That's the understanding how to live a good life. Not 100%, not in its entirety, because it would be extremely and extraordinarily difficult to do. But then in the midst of doing that and practicing and seeking to do that more better on on a consistent basis, then what I'm called to do is now revealed to me. I think a lot of times what people do is they go on a hunt and they try to hunt what they're called to do, but the only thing they're doing is pursuing what we tend to call our passion. But it's what I like to do. So I'm pursuing my passion because it pleases me. It makes me happy to do this thing, but I may not necessarily be called to do this thing. In fact, what I may learn is the thing that I'm called to do, I don't even know how to do. Not only do I not know how to do it, I don't even feel equipped to do it. It's too big for me to do by myself. But I got to go back and remember, fear God and keep His commandments. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter how big it is. It's what He called me to do. And so at the end of the day, I go through this type of internal conflict. This is how I feel, but this is what He revealed to me. How I feel, what He revealed, which becomes more important. And I have to get to the point to where how I feel takes a back seat to what He revealed, and then recognize that he is the one that will equip me to do the thing that he called me to do. Because if I can equip myself, it's not what he called me to do.
I love it. And Coach, I'm going to sound like I was sitting on your shoulder as a parent, because you saying what I wrote down, because I was writing down some things, as a matter of fact, as Unc was talking, because anytime you speak about self passions, you speak about your likes and your dislikes, and those things can be developed by you, and you have no need of the Most High. But and that's a slippery slope, because that dives into your pleasures now. Because what makes me feel good, or I feel like doing this, I feel like doing that, or this makes me feel better when I'm doing it, so that's what I'll slide over to do. And then self-glorification is idolatry at best, because you elevate yourself at the same level as the Most High, because now it becomes that pride, because I did this. So when you're talking about glory, and we're not talking about saying you did a good job, we're talking about glory of saying, man, you're beating your chest, because we all have pleasures in the things that we put our hands to. And you know, while Coach was talking, I went to Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. And that simply means that when I'm in his purpose, that makes me feel good. That makes me happy. That brings me joy. But when it's something that I do, once it doesn't do the thing, I'm miserable. So that's why people, when they have things that they put their hands together and they did on their own, and it wasn't their purpose, it was just something they like to do, they find themselves in a slippery slope of being depressed and being all these negative things, simply because he wasn't in it in the first place, and it was all about them. And that's where you roll over into ego, and that's where we'll go. I don't know if we answered your question, or if you have a follow along question to that.
Well, I got some more to add to it. So when I was going through my journey to figure out what my purpose was, there was a lot of meditation that went on. There was a lot of time alone in the dark thinking. And during that time, it was revealed to me, some of the things that were revealed to me was that part of my purpose is to better myself and to give back the information, right? So if those are two parts of my purpose, now I have to figure out how to do these things, right? So I guess that's kind of sort of what I meant by I guess what I was saying earlier, and that's kind of just what I mean. It's like, I'm not like, I think that they can line up, and I think it's better if they line up. I don't think that our purpose is really going to be something that we really just hate and we really don't like. I think that there may be certain things that go along on the journey of being on your purpose that you may not like, but because it lines up with your purpose, you do it anyway, because that's irrelevant. The important part is the purpose, not necessarily how we feel at a certain moment or a certain time. So again, you know, like I said, once I found out what my purpose was, I went out and I started seeking information to figure out how I can have this purpose come to fruition. Because good, bad, or indifferent, even though we have the black and white, if my purpose is to give back the information or to better myself, I still need to figure out how to do these certain things. I need to add more information because the people that I'm going to learn from most likely is going to be people that are being used as vessels in my life to offer me and to give me information. So that's all I got now.
And I like that, because, but I always look at, now this is for me, and I'm sure other people can relate. If someone comes to me and they tell me that something is for my good or my benefit, or it serves my purpose, and it doesn't line up with him, it's not within my purpose. It's not my purview, because if it doesn't line up with what he said for me to do and how he said for me to become, then it's not for me.
Like this podcast every Friday night and every Tuesday, it lines up with part of my purpose. Part of my purpose is to give back the information, right? But there's nothing in black and white that says go out there and start a podcast and start telling people information. So the podcast had to come from somewhere else. So that's kind of what I mean.
So
Okay.
I that's when the conversation changes from identifying purpose to the stewardship, right? Because I have a responsibility in my purpose, whatever that. If he says a part in your walk, you're part of being one of the fingers on the hand. I don't know. It's to start a podcast, right? What is that? Or not even to start a podcast, but to give back the information of which he has allowed you to attain. All right, good. If that's where you are, now the stewardship part is me going to understand what that looks like. Is me going to learn more than just, because he said, get wisdom is the principal thing, but with all that getting, I got to go now and get understanding. All right, now we're getting understanding, and then this is a resource I can use to do that, and that's putting together a podcast. He's given me the gift to be able to speak to where people can understand, or to where it grabs the attention of people, or to where people can, whatever that looks like, because your gift can be a part of your calling. But I think now what we have done is moved to stewardship when we start talking about the exact details and the gaining of the information or resources.
And that's why I wanted to clearly differentiate between the difference of purpose and calling, because a lot of time we use purpose and we using it in the wrong context, right? We all have the same purpose, right? So we're all supposed to jointly do the same thing. But then later on, moving beyond that, it equates to a personal relationship with him where he reveals what he called me specifically to do, right? So now that I have an understanding what he called, now that I have an understanding about what he called me specifically to do, I go forth and, like Son of Timothy just said, I steward that. Now, again, I'm gonna use you as an example, because when we first met, again, I always give kudos to you because you're the one that got me in this space right here. I was doing it vocal first, and then I talked with you as we kind of went back and forth. He was like, "Hey man, come on over to my show. You can cut your teeth that way." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then we started sharing information back and forth. And I will tell you, and just as well as I do, every day, probably at least for the first year and a half, every day I hit that live button, man, we'd be sweating, nervous, sweat running down our back because we want to do our best. I didn't feel like I was equipped to do this. If you really knew me years ago, I was camera shy. You pull the camera out in front of me if you want to, I'm going the other direction. I didn't want to be in front of a camera. So now you want me to get in front of a camera? You want me to do what I asked you to teach me how to do? And now that you've taught me how to do it, now you charge me with going and doing that to people so that they can understand. You see what I'm saying? So all of it relates to a relationship that is acquired over the course of time, which leads from purpose. Fear him, keep his commandments. Those things create the relationship with him. Now he shares this information with you. Hey, this is what I want you to do now. And now you go do that. And the way that happens is, you trying to figure out what that looks like. Here's what I believe a lot of times. I believe a lot of times we conflate what we're called to do with what he told us to do. There are some very specific instructions that he told us to do. And a lot of times what you hear is people say, I'm called to do that. No, you're instructed to do that. That's something totally different. I can't take what he instructed me to do and say, that's my calling. No, there's a difference. The Bible articulates three things: knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? Knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So it is my responsibility to seek knowledge, information once processed, now get to the point. So information once analyzed now becomes knowledge after practice several times. Then going from knowledge, I got to get to wisdom. But before I get the wisdom, I got to get the understanding. So now I get the understanding of the knowledge, and then I practice the understanding. Now I get to the wisdom. Then I got to practice the wisdom so that the wisdom gets to the point of understanding. Now I teach it, because he will not let me get to the understanding unless I am willing to teach the thing that he allowed me to understand. It doesn't matter how. That's why I keep talking about, you have a lot of people on social media and they become, I want this information, I need this information, I need this information, I need it. And they become conglomerates of information that yield nothingness, which to me is just sad. Take time, focus on one thing, and get good at this one thing. Once you get good at this one thing, then move on to something else, right? But a lot of times, and I'm not talking about anybody on this panel, but I'm just saying in general, this is what I've seen. People will grab the information and they do like Martin Lawrence said years ago, they run tell that. But then if you ask them a question about the thing that they're telling, they have no depth or no breadth of the information that they're sharing. So that's the thing. We have to put in the work so that that information that we're getting transform itself from the words on the page or the words that's coming into my ears into the point that I have a conceptual understanding, a model that I can put into practice. And then after putting it into practice, I now have a second level of learning that comes from experience.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And I want to stay there, but we're not going to stay there, because I think when we bring into this popularity, it's going to tie everything in. Isn't purpose ordained by? That's simply what Coach has been saying this whole time, how purpose is ordained by the scriptures, period. And anytime you've seen a people in the book, the only time they didn't have favor from the Most High is when they went against what he said. That's when and then anytime they was to get right, hey, you got to come back. You got to follow. You have to do this. It wasn't you had to do something crazy, some miraculous thing, but once you follow him in his words and what he said to do, it's not like everything gonna be peachy keen, but you start to realize like, hey, life ain't about me feeling good. See, I think sometimes we get caught up in feeling good, and that's where this popularity thing comes in. So when we look over and see the difference between the popularity and the purpose and how they contrast, they don't just go hand in hand or even side by side. That's when we'll find out like, oh, look, my purpose is not simply about what I can do well, because there are a lot of people on social media that have jobs or wherever that do things well, and they will receive notoriety from it. And that notoriety becomes popularity. And let's go to question 3. Would you say that most choose popularity over purpose? If so, why?
So what if we say no?
Why?
All right. So I'm poking the bear tonight.
All
right. So here's the deal. So here's what I wrote down for question number 3. I wrote no. I think most people never get to the point to where they even find their purpose. But this was before I got a different definition of what purpose was. So with that being said, I want to know from you guys a little bit more about this popularity thing that we speaking of tonight, because that's where I'm not 100% sure I really understand what we mean when we're talking about popularity. So I just want to, if you guys can help me out a little bit, maybe even answer the question, or either just kind of let me know a little bit more about what this popularity part is. I got the purpose now, but even when I was reading the question, I didn't really understand the popularity part. So I was like, I'm gonna wait until the show comes up and then I'll ask then. So
I'm pulling up Matthew 6 because he's talking about prayer But when you talk about popularity, there's a thing that he mentioned that I claim your alms before. Take heed that you do not your alms before man to be seen of them, otherwise you have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. All right, he says it there. Then when he talks about prayer, he says, and when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. So the popularity thing is the thing that you do, and a lot of times we try to disguise chasing popularity as walking in our calling or in purpose, right? Or some of us are not disguising it, some of us are just confused, right? So when I talk about the thing that I'm good at, I think that I'm a pretty good singer, right? I think I've only met about 2 people in my life that disagree. And it depends on when you hear me. If you hear me recorded or live, I don't know, right? But if I go out there and I start singing and I'm getting offers for contracts or do features or whatever the case may be, and people are learning my name, and I'm glorified in that thing, right? And I'm just using this for an example, right? That is about me. That's about me sharing my gift, right, or my talent. That's about me performing, about my name being called, my name being put in lights, about me being lifted up, about me standing on the stage above people as they push their energy towards me, which is a form of worship, right? So that is about me. I'm putting myself in a place as an idol when I'm chasing popularity. Um, and but and I know you said you get the purpose piece. So I think we already know what purpose is. But in the snapshot, purpose is when I deny myself and for the glory of the Father. Is when I turn down the things that glorify me. You may not think singing and performing is bad, but simply for the fact that the way I'm doing it or what I'm doing it for is putting me in a place of praise higher than it puts the Father in a place of praise. I need to walk away from it. And so that, I think, or at least for me, that's how I view it when we talk about what's the popularity piece. It's chasing after vain glory. And so I think a lot of people, I'm going to say yes, they choose popularity over purpose. Why? Because most people, when we talk about most people, I know that Christ is just talking about the road altogether, but he says, he said, be careful to walk on the narrow road, for wide is the road, and many travel thereon that lead to destruction. And so I think many people are on the wide road, because the narrow road, he says, few travel on. And I just believe it to be true because he said it. All right. So I would take that. I take that approach. And I just think some of us do it because we're not taught. We don't know the difference. We think because we got popular doing the thing, it's our purpose.
I think your question is a great question, and it really leads into what you experience a lot in certain areas, such as Hollywood, things of that nature. The beautiful part about the question is that the question identified choose popularity. I would, in my mind, repurpose the word choose into seek popularity. Because a lot of times what you'll find is that, and you guys remember when we was in high school, you had the cool crew, and then you had you, right? And if you were a part of the cool crew, great. If you wasn't, then get it. But everybody wanted to be a part of the cool crew. And you felt less than if you wasn't a part of the cool crew. But your goal was to keep pursuing to be a part of the cool crew. And you continue to grow and progress, whether you played football, whether you became a cheerleader, whatever that looks like. But then when those things start to show up in your life, then it's almost like you got an invitation to the cool crew. And I think it doesn't stop there. I think it continues when you become an adult. Because at the end of the day, I think for each individual person, there's still a desire to be a part of the cool crew, except the cool crew just looks different because you're not confined to going to the same establishment as everybody that you meet throughout the course of your life. Well, in essence, what we're talking about in this essence is my need for self-fulfillment. me feeling good based upon the people I'm around, the things that I'm doing, and the way that people uplift me. And then it gets to the point to where I constantly seek that. I seek that. I wake up day and I go to sleep at night thinking about things that I can do to gain the popularity or gain the praises of the people. Well, that starts to sound familiar when you really start thinking about it. So your focus becomes more on popularity as opposed to purpose or calling. So as long as I'm focused on popularity, I'm focused on me. As long as I'm constantly focused on me, I can't be focused on him, which is exactly what he told me that I need to do.
I'm going to take it back down to the infancy, because as little children, when we grow up, once we find something that made your mother laugh or something that you were good at, and you receive accolades, you receive that pat on the back, you receive that laugh, that gave you a little sense of dopamine in the back of your brain that said, do it again and make them laugh. Do this or do that. And what you did is you became addicted to that feeling. So now I want to do more of that. Like I was good in sports. So anytime I didn't get any attention unless I did something bad or I was playing sports. So when I played sports, it was always a good feeling. It was always a good thing. So I tried to do that more. And I thought that was my purpose. Oh, you're supposed to do this. But that only continued to feed my ego. That only continued to feed my need for more and more. So now it started with this. Okay, we out of this season. What can I play next? What can I do to continue to get that dopamine, that epinephrine, that rush to the back of my brain so that I can continue to seek that feeling? And when we look at that, we grow up with that. So everything we started to do henceforth pushed us to where what made us feel good. So when you're talking about, even with your kids, if you gave them some encouragement, like I had to cut it out because I would say, okay, $20 per A. And then when them jokers coming in, everybody getting A's, I'm like, okay, we got to change this, because now their motives are the money, not the knowledge, not the good grades, but simply gaining the money. And that's what happens with us. Our motives become, when we get older, we try to see, I got some props. Our motives become the dollar bill, y'all. Oh, what job you gonna get? I'm gonna get this, not because I'm good at it or I like to do it, but simply because it brings in more bread. And then they said that I needed 6 figures, and they said I needed to do this. So now I got to drive a Benz. I got to do this. I got to do that. And so when it came to the whole popularity was pushed on us from a youth, because we got notarized, we got accolades, and we got pats on the back. So that's why popularity is so, even today, that's why social media blew up like it did. What's the new popular dance? What's popular on social media? And that's what you'll see more of. And then once you get popular and you become famous or infamous, then you realize who's actually for you and who's not. You were about to say something?
Yep. I got you. I got some too.
Big dog.
Told you petty. I'm rolling tonight. Hey, no. So, all right. So I've been listening to you, brothers, and this is what I got, right? So the question was, what would you say? Would you say that most people choose popularity over purpose, right? So if what I've picked up so far, according to you guys, that your purpose is pretty much keeping the commandments, right? Just paraphrasing real quick. All right. So that means the opposite of that would be not keeping their commandments, right? So I would say that most people would probably fall up under the popularity piece of that. But, or however, I also think that maybe a lot of people don't know what their purpose is. It wasn't until tonight where I heard this definition of what purpose was. So I would say that a lot of people never get to the point to where, even though it's in black and white and it's right in front of them, they may have never really had anybody tell them or break it down for them and explain to them exactly what their purpose is. And maybe they did, but maybe it was in different terms or different lingo or something like that. But for me, this was the first time that I've heard purpose used this way. So based off the question, I think that most people do choose popularity over purpose. And for my reason why is just because they don't understand, or maybe they have never heard it or never had it explained to them in a certain way to where they relate purpose to pleasing the Most High and keeping the commandments.
I'm with you, and I agree with what you said. And we're gonna roll right into Crystal Everett's. She says, "So is it doing things to glorify self over others? Is that what popularity over purpose is?" That's to you guys.
Let me think. So since I want to go first, since this was kind of similar to what I was kind of saying or thinking about. So is it doing things to glorify self over others? Is it doing things to glorify self over others? Is that what popularity over person? Based off what I've learned so far today, I don't think that's what it is. But I'm definitely interested in hearing what others have to say.
So, is it doing things to glorify self over others? Sure. I think that man, I sound like Coach Kiss now. uh, but I think I've been hanging around you too long. uh, but I think the overall, right? Just like we said, the overall theme and purpose is, you know, the whole duty of man, fear Elohim and keep his commandments, right? But with the same thing with popularity, I think the overall theme is not just glorifying yourself over others, glorifying yourself over the Most High, taking glory from Him. I think someone put in the chat about popularity, about doing your purpose, drawing people to you. Oh yes, Pastor Harris here in Killeen. Good evening, Doc. But for me, the way I look at it is that doing my purpose will draw men unto Him. So He says, therefore, if I be lifted up above the earth, I'll draw. And and I know we take that and use that as a Calvary message a lot of times, but when we lift Him up, when we preach Christ, when we bring Him before man, before the world, He's drawing people unto Himself, right? Or well, we know the Father because He already said, "No man come unto me except my Father first draw." But that is the work being done. We are the vessels in doing what we're called to do, and that's preaching Christ. So that draws people unto Him. Whether or not you are the vessel that a lot of people come to, or a few people come to, you're still in your purpose as and draw and preaching the gospel message. If that makes sense. I'm just using preaching the message, but I brought that up because of the scripture reference.
Definitively, without hesitation, my answer to this question is yes. I love it when you present a dichotomy, because when we hear a dichotomy, we automatically assume it's either this or that. And so when we're talking about purpose, someone else may hear that popularity is a bad thing, or it's totally, totally it's an abomination. It's none of that. It's only when I put that first. When I put that first, that's when it becomes a bad thing. But no one ever said that. That's the beautiful part of this conversation. No one ever said that. again, it's purpose must come first. If popularity comes, great. If popularity don't come, great. Because here's the truth of the matter. Everybody's not going to get popularity. There are some people who serve from the front. There are some people who serve from the rear. Here's the deal. The ones who serve from the rear are greatly appreciated by the ones who will serve from the front. And they do not hesitate telling those people that one-on-one and in front of everybody else. So don't conflate when you hear the conversation saying that, oh, popularity is of the devil. We never said that. What we said is that purpose is the first thing. That's what you should be pursuing. So if that is the case, again, whatever comes with it, that is because he brought it with what he gave you in your calling, not because you pursued it. And that's the thing we have to understand. So is it doing things to glorify self over others? Absolutely. Why? Because the only way you know how much you love him is by how you see how much you love others. And you should not be loving others through the lens of what the world taught you that love looks like. Because if that's what I'm doing, I guarantee you it doesn't line up with what his love is. And his love is complete and whole. It is the only love. That other version of love is all about emotions. And when we get to the whole emotions aspect, that's what popularity is all about when I do it first. And the issue, going back to what Roland's point was, the issue is that as a young tyke, most of us were never told how to manage our emotions. Most of us were never taught how to self-regulate. So in essence, I have, going back to the question you didn't allow me to answer, sir, I have no choice but to choose popularity over purpose. Because not only for the reason that Unc just said, I was never taught purpose the right way as a young tyke, but I was also never taught how to manage my emotions. And because I was never taught how to manage my emotions, what about me? How about me? What you gonna do for me? According to the prophet Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? Me becomes the center of the universe. And if you're not thinking about me, there's no possible way that you can love me. Oh my gosh. How dare you? I'm sorry. I'm going back in the corner.
Man.
But you, I'm sorry. My bad.
No, go ahead. Get it out. Go ahead.
Because I'll put a scripture in the private chat. Yes, I'll put a scripture in the private chat. Just in case y'all was wondering if I got that wrong. I got it right. And John 5:3 is very clear. Since you brought up love, Coach, it brings us right back to the whole duty or purpose of man. He says, "For this is the love of the Father, that you keep His commandments, and His commandments are not grievous." So,
One John.
Yeah, 1 John. My bad. 1 John 5. My bad.
It's the first one. Yeah. Can I add one more thing as well? I just want to put this out there because I think another space of confusion, we look at keep and not keep, right? The scripture says keep, but we look at keep and not keep. And so when we hear keep, and our automatic opposite of it is not keep, we think a thing, but it's more so of keep versus reject. That's the thing. So when you reject it, that's the thing that really gets you in trouble. Keeping is a thing that you actually read, you study, you meditate on such and such and such, but you haven't perfected it, right? That is still a version of keeping. Rejecting is something totally different. You don't even read it. You don't care about it. You don't even want to talk about it. When people start talking about that, you just walk away and say, I don't want to hear all that foolishness. That's total rejection. That would be the opposite of keep, rejecting.
Y'all said mouthful, and I can't let Coach go before me no more. Nah. Coach, I love it. But all I was going to say to her point was popularity can't be your driving force. If popularity is your drive, because Christ was popular. A lot of his disciples were popular. People knew them, but their popularity couldn't supersede their mission, their purpose. Their purpose wasn't there to be popular, because when they went up on the Mount of Transfiguration and then the boys said, what about me? I need a seat over here and he need a seat over here. You can be in the middle. It's like, hold up, this ain't about you or him. This is about the Father. So, and me. So that's where we can't sit up there and get so I got to choose this or that. No, because if you're doing something, see, and that's why we move into the next question. The next question will bring this part out. What's the connection between popularity and respect? I'm gonna let y'all chew on that.
I'm gonna wait on this one because what I wrote down is different than what I've learned throughout the show. So I'm gonna take a back seat and wait on this one. Let's see what happens.
Well, I wrote something down. I'll go first on this one so that these brothers won't steal my answers and stuff. I said popularity feeds people what they want, while respect is gained by giving people what they need. See, that's like when I was younger and I grew up with my great grandmother. Anytime I had a sniffle, runny nose, or cough, anything, she'd say, "Don't get that cod liver oil." And she'd say, "You're gonna take a heaping of this." Or she would say a helping. I'm like, a helping. And so then she would get that big tablespoon and put that stuff in my mouth and hold my nose for me so I couldn't get away and make me swallow it. Now, it was something that I needed that was good for me, but I didn't want it. That's how respect is. That's how the different, like if you're popularity, simply seeking popularity means that I'm seeking to be known. When I was younger, I wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be this. Why? So people can yell my name. So I can be on stage talking about anything that was crazy. I wanted to do that. Even when in the church preaching, I always wanted to know, man, did I do good? How did I look? Not, I would try to say it in a humble fashion, but it was all about me because I wanted to make sure that what I said made sense. And not only made sense, is did I look good saying it? And that's how a lot of people are doing today. And so when you look at the respect is something that is that respect. I will tell one of my brothers something that they don't like, but they need to hear. And I know I have enough respect from them in them that they'll receive it. They may not like it coming at that moment, but they'll receive it and say, yeah, he's right. It's just like anytime I'm not persecuted, but reprimanded about something, and I know I'm wrong, simply because I have the spirit in me, it's gonna tell me, dude, you wrong. Shut your mouth, apologize, and move forward. Do better. Now I don't know what you guys got to say.
Now that you didn't took my answer, no. The connection, and so when I was listening to your response, it made me rethink what I was originally thinking, because when you said the connection between popularity and respect, but when I heard your response, I started hearing the difference between popularity and respect. But is that the same thing? You're asking the same thing, kind of? All right. So when I'm looking at this question, connection between popularity and respect, I look at who's the respect for, right? Respect to whom? And so in the context of which I was thinking in this whole conversation, I think there is no true connection. The way I was going to answer it, so just understand where my mind's at. I don't think there's any true connection between chasing my popularity and respect for the Most High, right? And kind of for the purpose of what you said in the beginning of your statement, because my popularity is going to have me give people what they want and feed it to them as if it's something they need, right? I look at it back into what the let's go into the Welfare Act. Democrats became highly popular among the black community after the Welfare Act, right? Why? Because it gave people what they wanted, but wasn't necessarily what they needed. I get it that families got to eat. I don't think that welfare itself is a bad thing, but permanently it is crippling to a man's drive and or his purpose, right? Let's say that, or his calling. It's a hindrance to that thing, but it's not. It's when you peel back the layers of what you have to sacrifice to get the thing you want, it has now become disrespectful because you see the long-term effect of what that thing has done to those communities. And so we continue to feed it to them because it's keeping us popular. Then now I am highly disrespectful to the people. Does that make sense? I'm trying not to change the texture of the conversation to something else, but when I'm chasing popularity, there's really no respect. We talk about it today, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna land that plane on. But when you listen to Beyonce, a married billionaire who's married to a billionaire, tell you all the single ladies, right? You know, doing all this. All my women independent, but then she going home to her husband. You know, what is that selling you? Cardi B talking to you like you're supposed to be out there loose and free, and she going home to her husband. Maybe not for long, I don't know. But that is disrespectful. You can't sell me something as if it's good for me and you don't want it. But you did it to get popular.
I like that. That was pretty good, Cat.
Gaddy on one tonight.
Yeah, he's definitely on it.
Yeah,
I'm agreeing. Like
proud of him.
today, 2024. Not just today, all of 2024. Probably going to 2025 too, because we ain't changing. It don't look like we're trying to change. Might be leading 2026 as well. I don't see there's a connection. I don't see where respect is popular. That's my struggle when I look at these two coming together. It's like today, based upon what I'm seeing, it's like putting oil in water. It's almost like, and I'm doing this intentionally, by the way, it's almost like parents have to strive to be popular in order to gain respect. When in all actuality, going back to where we started from, fear the Most High, keep his commandments. But his commandments told me to respect my parents, actually to honor them really, which is a higher form of respect, but that's a whole nother conversation. But parents have to be popular in order to gain respect, which to me is paradoxical, right? But the way it should be honoring them, honoring those who we are instructed to honor should be popular. It should be the norm. And and based upon my observations, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong. It's not the norm. Sure, there is a version of that. And I'm not talking about us as adults doing everything that our parents tell us to do. I'm 50 years old. I'm not doing everything my mom tells me to do. She knows that. All right. But when I was a child, right? And again, I'll touch that in a second. When I was a child, I did everything she told me to do within reason. You know, we're boys. We push the envelope a little bit. That's what boys do. But I think for the most part, when we look at honoring our parents, it's more so along the line of me not discrediting their name. So it's not so much as me doing everything she said to do, it's that I represent her and my father well when people see the last name of Dwyer. So in essence, even though I may not do everything she said to do today, but I'm still honoring their name based upon what I do holistically. But ideally, that's not popular either. Because when you look around, it's like they care less what they think about what I'm doing. I'm gonna do me. So I don't really see there's a connection in here. Yeah, we can stretch it and say that, oh well, if this, then that. But be honest with ourselves. Just be transparent. Is that what we see in society? Do we see that in society? Do we see, for the most part, people, young people saying yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am? just because that was taught to them at home. No. In fact, the way these things are set up these days, most parents don't even tell their own kids to say yes, sir, and no, sir to them. So it's like, why would they do it to somebody in the street? So I don't necessarily see a connection between popularity and respect. I see them as being like oil and water today. Now, should there be a popular a connection between? Absolutely. It should be popular to be respectful. There's nothing. Look, I'm 50 years old and I still address people elder than me as sir and ma'am. And then I say, oh man, you got great beard. You ain't got. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because yours is a lot more gray than mine. I'm assuming that you in your, early 70s, whatever the case may be. That means you're old enough to be, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Old enough to be my dad. Yeah. So I'm going to say, yeah. I do, do the quick mental math. Yeah. And then here's the thing. If you don't know, err on the side of caution. You do it in customer service. It could be a person younger than you. You address them as sir and ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. They don't even do that. You go someplace like a fast food restaurant, what you want. That's what you get these days. So I don't see there as being any connective tissue today in between popularity and respect.
The connection is popularity comes before respect in the alphabet. That's my pettiness. But in all in all seriousness, man, I'm listening to you guys, and you guys are, man, I don't know. Here's what I'm thinking though. Popularity is subjective to a certain extent. You can look at certain preachers or certain people on TV and they have a certain amount of popularity, may or may not have respect. And then you may look at a local church, you look at a pastor or somebody like that that's, maybe been there for a long time and they're popular and they may be respected in the community as well. And I also look at this word respect and I see that as being very subjective as well. I've just heard coach talk about how the youth, saying yes sir and no sir. But I've also, in certain cultures, I've heard a lady, honestly, a black lady at my job, my last job, and she said she didn't teach her kids to say yes sir and no sir. She said because that's what the slave masters forced us to say. So our ancestors. So she said she didn't believe in it. So respect may look different in her house than it does in coach's house. So, I'm kind of hung up on the different levels of all of this stuff when it comes to and the subjectivity that could be held when using these words popularity and respect. So that's kind of where I'm stuck at right now. I do think that there may be a link. But I'll say I think it depends on the space that we're in. I think that there are some people who are very popular and they're very respected. And then I think there are some people who are popular, but they're not respected. No Diddy. Oh, go ahead, coach. That was my second one. Y'all hear that?
We are former soldiers, right?
Yeah.
When you addressed an officer, what did you end it with?
A salute or a sir.
Or ma'am, right?
Or ma'am.
And that was deemed as
proper
customs and courtesy.
Customs and courtesies. Yeah.
It is customary.
Customary.
And it's courteous to address them as sir or ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would happen if you did not put that handle on it? It is deemed as what?
Disrespectful.
Exactly. That is not subjective. That was clear and cut.
You're right. In that situation,
I'm only using that as
subjective. Yeah.
Right, only as an example. And I think, sure, there are people out there who will make up whatever version of, I don't want to use the term rhetoric because there may be some truth in it. Sure, there is some truth in it. But at the end of the day, how long are we going to hold on to that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've never been, and I'm just saying this.
I know. I got you though.
Right.
Yep.
That didn't affect me. It affected me from the perspective of epigenetics. That is all. But if we're holding on to what took place a long, long time ago and using that piece of my epigenetics as my reality, that speaks more about me as it pertains to what I'm trying to teach my child. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that it's based upon the conversation you're having, right? If we talk about diet and health, a lot of the things that are in our diet as a community that has affected our health was given to us as flop because the slaves or the N word got the flop. That's
Bring
I know that's what I'm saying. So, but I'm bringing it up to say there is some type of validity in understanding what happened to our ancestors. But when we're talking about in the space of communication and language, we put so much different levels of complexity on language when we start saying that this is a bad term because we had to address our slave masters, or our ancestors had to address our slave masters as such thing. Well, absolutely true, right? But we also had to call them, they also said master. We still call out, we still say, you hear people still say boss. Hey, what up, boss? Right? To their supervisor or Mr. Like, it was because it wasn't because it was a derogatory term. It was because it was the
A
language
title. Some of it was just a title.
yeah, to someone who are superior in a manner. And so with what Coach is talking about, you are superior to me in age as an elder. You are a sir to me. Like y'all my brothers. I said, what up, what up, what up, Coach, what up, bro? All right. But if I walked up to you and shook your hand, I'm going, I'm gonna address you by your name because I know it. But if you ask me a question, I'm gonna respond, yes, sir, absolutely, yes, sir. Why? Because though y'all my brothers, I still have to recognize y'all my elders, and it's not a
That means we the
disrespect.
same age.
No, we ain't the same age. Don't do that to yourself.
I see what he did. I see what he did there. I see what he
I
did.
only got about 3 or 4 grades in my your beard grayer than mine. Ain't that what Carl said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I get it, man. I just got a little, I just got hung up on maybe just those different titles and those words, which I know we was talking about them, but
But like I said, you're good because
yeah.
like Roland said earlier, like I know someone else has that same question or thought. They just don't have a voice right now, or they may not
Yeah.
be in a space to type it as a question. So I think the question is great.
Yeah, and I'm glad y'all dove into it and took it like y'all took it, because I'm like, okay, the connection, how they gonna split this thing up? Because when you look at connection, you're looking at things that harmoniously go together.
They got bad connections, like Coach's
Right.
internet earlier and Gaddy's, but it's still a
Yeah.
connection. It's just it's a
See,
horrible connection.
And that's why we have to look at it and say, okay, you can be popular and be respected or disrespected. And when it comes to the level of I think somebody on here, I think we were on maybe Saturday's class, where they heard me talking about grandchildren. When I talk to my grandchildren, I say, when they say something to me, I say yes sir or no ma'am, and I'm talking about grandchildren because I'm trying to teach them that when they speak to somebody, it's a way to talk to somebody. Now they're not above me or anything. I'm just trying to teach them how to talk, and that way they know how to respond back to me. Because if they respond to me with yeah, no, and all that other stuff, then I'm gonna have to give them encouragement. But last question is, why do so many people choose popularity over purpose? That
For
wasn't
vain glory. We are vain creatures in today's society, right? Unfortunately, you said it earlier. That's why Facebook is so popular. That's why TikTok is so popular. That's why Instagram is so popular. Because I get to make it all about me. Even if nobody views my stuff, My page is still all about me, and and that's who we are. We live our lives off of searching for this fame and this goal. I mean, we've been like this for a while. As far as I can remember, I was only born in the '80s, right? But as far as I can remember, we were trying to be singers. We were trying to be football players. We were trying to be basketball players. We were trying to be boxers. We were trying to be something. We were trying to quote unquote make it, and that looked like fame. TikTok, Facebook, and all that other stuff came into play, and it's like, what? I give myself my own shot at being famous. I don't have to wait for a record deal to let everybody hear me sing. I don't have to wait for a contract to show me shooting the jump shot or playing ball at the rec. You know, and so we feed into that mindset of trying to get. So many people are distracted. You watch families sitting at a dinner table out at the restaurant, and half of them are on their TikTok, on their Facebook. They posting pictures of their meal because they want people to click the like button. It's a distraction. It feeds us, and it drives us to want to get more people to interact with it, more people to click on it. And so my main answer is we have become vain people. That's why we choose popularity over purpose.
All right. So I'm gonna say one word, then I'll elaborate more. That word is time. Right. And what I mean by time is this: popularity. It don't take nothing to get popular. We talked about social media. All you need to do is post one video, and then you can have a whole bunch of popularity. But purpose, man, that's a long process that takes time to do. You know what I mean? To really be able to do all of those things and do them consistently on a regular basis, and to keep the commandments and stuff like that. That's a journey. You know what I mean? It's a long time. Whereas I think popularity is just, you can go on and knock that stuff out real quick. So I want to start right there, but I think I'm probably gonna end up coming back to it.
I'm gonna keep mine simple. I said it earlier. That's what they taught. All you gotta do is pay attention. If I'm not pouring into my child, who is? TV, internet, little Timmy and Johnny on the schoolyard, little Tamika, all that other great stuff. Yeah. That's what they learn. They learn it at home. They practice it in the streets. They learn it in the streets if you're not necessarily teaching them at home. Somebody teaching the child. The child got to be taught. So what you end up seeing manifest, especially in their earlier adult years, is what was taught. And unfortunately, we don't spend enough time with our kids. We let the internet and the TV do the teaching. We're only kidding ourselves when we put them in front of, what is it, Mickey Playhouse? Mickey, what? That's what, I don't want to say that because that's what they play in the allergy clinic when I go. MICKEYMOUSE. Yeah, kid be running around the house singing that. Say again?
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
Yeah, that's it. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. That works for a minute, but what if they start going from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse to Penthouse? Then what? You see what I'm saying? If you're not watching them and you keep them fixed in front of some, okay, I'm gonna go back and do it again. You keep them looking fixed at front of the television, right? Somebody's giving them their vision and they're getting it through a program, and it is programming the way that they think. Then unfortunately, what you're going to realize is that they're looking for their reality to shape out just like this program taught it to them. So they're learning it. That's why.
I love it. And I go back to what you started out with. You were talking about you gave the example of the butter knife. We don't understand, and this is people in general, don't understand the purpose of a thing, a purpose of having purpose, the purpose of it. So what happens is when you don't understand it, you misuse it or you abuse it. or you just don't know how to use it, so you're using it out of turn. And I got a story, and then I'm gonna shut my mouth, and then I'm gonna let these brothers get their final thoughts. And the story is, when I was a young, I was about maybe 6 or 7. My grandmother used to have this bag hanging up in the shower in the bathroom, and the bag had a tube hanging from it, and it had a thing. And we all little kids, none of us knew what it was, but the tube had a little spigot on the end with some little holes in it. And I'm like, oh, we're gonna blow the balloon up. And so we up there, we blowing the thing up. And it wasn't until years later, not that many, but years later, that I found out what that thing was. And then I realized that, yeah, that thing wasn't for me to use or for me to even be playing with, because I'm using it all wrong. See, that's what happens when you don't understand the purpose of a thing. You put yourself in positions to where you are, put in a bad situation. I just say that. So when it comes to knowing your purpose,
hold up, man.
What's up, man? What you got to say?
You just can't drop that and run. Like, what you thought it was, a portable water buffalo or something?
Man, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a water balloon.
That was the Camelback before they invented Camelbacks.
Man, I said I was like 6 or 7. Hey, I thought it was one of them things. Remember back in the day, they sit on the things and the little fart noise.
The whoopee cushion.
Yeah, I thought it was one of them. But they had the thing in the shower. I'm thinking, oh, you blowing this? It's a water balloon. Yeah, yeah. You live and learn. That was years ago. A lot of mouthwash, a lot of brushing, a lot of therapy. Ooh. But yeah, so when it comes to purpose and popularity, you can be popular without being in your purpose, but you cannot be in your purpose and simply seeking popularity. I'm gonna let these brothers finish it off, and then I'll close us out.
Yeah, that story would have had to die with me too, Missy. I'm sorry, I had to collect myself. Listen, overall, we have a purpose that we cannot walk away from, and that is to fear the Most High and keep His commandments. Many people can have their own way of interpreting things and how to say things, but that is what we were created to do. That is who we are. That's what we are called to do. That is the whole duty of man. And we have to walk in accordance with what the word says. Because when we walk in accordance to what the word says, in consequence, we will eventually begin to walk in what our purpose is and our calling within those purposes. After we've done that, whatever comes from that, we have to be in a disposition to where we say it is well. Paul says, in whatever situation I find myself, I've learned how to be content, because he didn't need the popularity. He didn't need, the mansion on the hills. He didn't need the freezer full of food. All he needed to do was to please God and keep His commandments. And when that thing finally opened up to him what his calling and that purpose was, he immediately turned it around, because it was plain as day. And I promise you, you won't be let down in the end, because even if it causes you to suffer, for if we are co-heirs, then we must also suffer with Him so that we can be glorified with Him. That's all I have.
Tonight we talked about two really big words that start with P. One is purpose, and the other was popularity. I think it's very important that we understand words and how to apply them and use them in our lives. There are certain words that we hear and we think we may have an understanding of them, and then we move forward in life only to figure out that there may be a different understanding or different definition of that word. I also think that we as adults are going to spend a lot of time unlearning things. I think that comes with maturity. And I think that that's just something that happens as we move through this thing that we call life. The importance of purpose over popularity is it's not really, I don't want to say it's what you make of it, but in a sense, to me, it kind of sort of is. As I learned earlier, the purpose is in a sense some of being obedient and doing what you're supposed to do. And I think that's very important. I think that continuing and doing that, I think it allows us to build on ourselves and to be better human beings. And I think that when we become better human beings, we are able better to serve in the kingdom overall. So I don't know. It's just been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. And man, I'm looking forward to the next week when we have the next conversation. So I appreciate these gentlemen for everything that they've done and said and shared with me and taught me this evening.
Over the past 24 to 36 hours, there have been a lot of families that have been affected by Hurricane Helene. And good, bad, or indifferent, there's some people who were able to get out of that situation unscathed, but then there's a lot of people who are suffering right now. They're suffering because they lost, their homes, they lost their cars, they have no electricity, in some instances for at least another 2 weeks, and it's already being predicted right now today. But pay close attention, and if you're in these areas where these people are affected, you should be one of these people that do exactly what I'm about to say. Pay close attention, because our ego goes completely away when we see somebody that's distressed, when we see somebody that needs help, when we pull out the chainsaw and start cutting off trees off of houses and things of that nature, because there's something inside me that says that could have been me. And in that moment, you may be thanking God that it's not you, but by that same token, you dare not walk away from that person because they need help. I'm not necessarily saying that is purpose. What I'm saying is that is the ability to put aside the need to be recognized in that moment. Well, if we can do it in moments such as these, then we can do it every step of the way. We can put forth the time, energy, and efforts to not need to be important, to not need to be recognized, for the sake of doing something, for the sake of honoring the Most High and doing something that is bigger than me. I think a lot of times we struggle in the space of doing something because we don't see how it feeds me. Well, if that is your purpose in life, if that's what you do, then I'll be the first person to tell you that you're a very self-centered person. And that's not the end of it all. That's not your final chapter. It doesn't have to end right there, right? What can you do for someone else? What can you do so that you can facilitate something higher than yourself? I think that's what this whole conversation was about. Stop trying to be important, because nobody's that important. There's only one person that's important, and he is talked about from the beginning to the end. Go read it, you'll see it. Stop trying to be important and find out how you can serve others. That's the key. Put forth the time, energy, and efforts, and humble yourself daily for the sake of uplifting others for a calling that is bigger than yourself. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to what I'm called to do, it's virtually impossible. If he gave it to me as a calling, I can't do it by myself. And here's the reality of the truth. People will come along that are destined to help with the thing. Now it's up to them to be obedient. It's not my responsibility to make them obedient. It's not Roland's responsibility to make them obedient. It's not the Uncle Junior responsibility to make them obedient. It's not Son of Timothy responsibility to make them obedient. But people will come along and they are destined to help. And you can tell. And sometimes, even in the midst of that, they may have great skill sets to facilitate, but sometimes they may not. So what we have to do is do every day, we have to search ourselves and ask ourselves this one question: what have I done to help somebody else? What have I done to uplift somebody else? What have I done for this particular community or this particular thing that did not necessarily glorify me and I was okay with it? That is my final thought.
I can't say it no better than Coach just said it, because he said a mouthful, and every word of that, I wish I could have just wrote it down, because my purpose, the only time I should be talking about I within my purpose is when I'm saying, how can I help others? How can I move this forward? Because my purpose feeds me to feed others. It leads me to lead others, because it's all about the community. And not all about the community, but it's all about the community and serving our purpose. And our purpose is still to uplift him, to follow him, to be led and guided by him. So when it's all said and done, I choose purpose over popularity every day. Because when you are popular, that's popular because people like or dislike what you do, and it's always contingent upon them. But my purpose is always contingent and spearheaded by him. That's all I got. Now, I appreciate each and every one of you that was in the chat, you brothers here. I think that this was a conversation that was needed, and I appreciate Coach for allowing me the space on to share with you guys, to lift up just a little piece of what comes from being in the community. Because outside of the community, I wouldn't be thinking about purpose. Outside of the community, I would be looking and thinking about other things that's not necessarily uplifting. But I appreciate Coach for giving us the platform. And it's not to just lift Coach up. I'm going to give his flowers now, because I recognize that he's led. And when he's led, like he said, I ain't going to make him listen. I'm not going to make him be obedient. I'm going to put it out there, and they have to come. They have to do. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to not just sit with you, but walk with you in this thing. So I'm appreciative as always. And I'm even appreciative of the conversation that we have, each and every one of you. But if you want to join the community that we have, join us on the www.totalmindsetshift.com, or you can find us on YouTube, where we are right now on YouTube on Empowering Perspectives podcast. You can find Uncle Junior on his. Once you find one of the links, you can find us all there and follow us, because on tomorrow morning, I'm not going to mess it up. I'll allow Coach to tell what he's doing tomorrow morning. But on Sundays, we're on TikTok. And it may be a different verbiage, but it's always the same message. So I'll turn it over to Coach so he can tell you what's going on next.
Absolutely. As you see right here, tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will have part 2 of a conversation we started on reframing the image of relationships. And that topic is divine unity, what becoming one truly means in relationships. So by all means, come on out, support, enjoy, have fun. It's going to be good.
And I hope y'all have a great night and wake up tomorrow refreshed. And looking forward to seeing y'all tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern, right? 10:30? There you go. See, I'll let you.